Welcome to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm Jamie Agostino, your host. On this show, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today on Financial Minds Meet the Experts, we are starting a new 4-week series dedicated to security and risk. To kick off the series, we are joined by Vizzo Financial's Chief Risk Officer, Lori Gall, to discuss security and risk issues impacting credit unions. Lori, thank you for joining me today to talk about risks facing credit unions. But before we get started, would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Jamie, and thanks for having me. So I am a 35-year credit union veteran. I'll say that. I just recently celebrated my 35th anniversary at Vizzo Financial. I started at Mid-Atlantic back in the 80s as a member service representative, and I've worked my way through many, many areas of the corporate. And for the last, trying to think now, since 2008. So what is that, 14 years, I've been in charge of risk and compliance at the corporate. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations on 35 years. I know a few people, your team, as well as some others, have surprised you in the past week or so. So congratulations.
They have. There was the incident of a cake being brought to an executive meeting. And yeah, so just a shout out to my teammates for surprising me at an event. So that's hard to do for those of you
Yes,
who know.
it is.
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about business email compromise. It's been a hot topic in recent months. Can you tell me about credit unions that have been impacted by recent business email compromise?
Yeah, and I'm going to keep it as high level as I can, but I really feel strongly that I want to give information out to credit unions because we all think it can't happen to us. We're not on the radar. And I want to tell you, credit unions are on the radar. So in probably mid August of last year, we started to see some issues with a business email compromise with one credit union. As we started to investigate it and work with that credit union, we saw about 12 credit unions that were impacted over a 9-week period. So at the corporate level, we were able to see those attacks taking place. And in some cases, we were able to alert the credit unions before they experienced any impact or losses. I mean, sometimes they weren't able to get in before we let them know. They had the business email compromise, but they weren't able to compromise some other things.
How did the corporate know this was happening, and how does it start?
So we saw password resets coming in for various systems. That's a big, key of to get into the kingdom. Basically, there were odd times for access for credit unions to create transactions, and then of course there were fraudulent transactions. And how it started was, in most cases, there were phishing campaigns targeted employees of credit unions. And then that victim's email account was compromised and forwarding rules were established. So let's say your credit union uses one of the larger carriers for your email service. That password was compromised in many situations, and then it allowed them to steal the email credentials and steal the passwords for other employees. So you're able to just troll from one to another. And then on top of that, they would establish forwarding rules and for trigger words like account number, social security, financial institution number, that type of info. So and whenever an email would come in with one of those words, it would automatically forward out to the bad actor. And basically whenever that happens, they do request for pending or future transactions. So, I mean, they're stealing the email credentials, and the cyber criminals are using that information to redirect fraudulent transactions to bank accounts all over the United States.
Wow. Are the bad actors targeting specific credit union asset sizes?
No, the bad actor didn't discriminate. So credit unions of various asset sizes were affected. And they would start the campaign with one email provider in an area and then extend their campaigns to credit unions in that area. So once they were into that email provider, they knew how to work it and then to target others. And they would do that one. Well, I'll say they got the list. They got address lists, out of emails. And then that's how they would do phishing campaigns to other credit unions. And we all need to continue to stay on high alert and question anything that may seem out of the ordinary. And that would even be out of the ordinary coming from somebody that an email coming externally, because you just don't know if they've been exposed. Maybe not because they did something, but somebody else did that exposed them. So, again, we just have to stay on high alert. And everyone is vulnerable. It doesn't matter your asset size. It doesn't matter the number of employees that you have, or the complexity of your credit union. Everyone, again, is a target.
All right. Well, can you share with me how you feel about the recent NCUA guidance issued in October of 2021?
Jamie, I think that the guidance was excellent. They put a lot of good practices. I pulled it up before we got on to this interview, but they gave a lot of good preventative measures for credit unions to put in place. And they also talked about preventing wire transfer fraud. So it clearly provides actions that should be put in place to enhance the security of credit unions. And I'll also say that I think that it was timely. The guidance was issued in October. There were still credit unions being targeted at that time across the United States. I know we met with some fellow corporate credit unions and discussed, as a corporate, we have a bit of a bird's eye view, right? Because we can see things happening throughout the industry. And some of our fellow corporates were also seeing that take place. And again, that's why, I wanted to make sure that we got this message out today, that the guidance was timely, what we've seen, we just want to give you information. And I know as we move through this series of podcasts, you're going to be working with my cyber team. I think it's important information for them to deliver.
All right. Well, can you tell me what steps can credit unions take to mitigate this risk?
Well, I think there are three important things. The first is, first and foremost, enable multi-factor. And whenever you enable multi-factor, if you can use a physical or electronic token, take it to that level. Don't use email as your multi-factor if possible. And then enhance your system oversight from an admin perspective. If you have old email accounts sitting out there that are no longer being used, if there's employee accounts that are out there, disable them, get rid of them, because those are easy targets. Nobody's paying attention to them, right? So another big key factor is training your staff. Make sure they understand the policies and procedures of the credit unions and of your credit union, and how to respond if a compromise happens, and that can be from your teller level the whole way up to your C-suite. I mean, you need to react pretty quickly in these types of situations. And the more training that you provide to employees, the higher, they're going to be more on high alert, basically. And, one other important thing I just thought about is social media. We all post lists of executives and we post how to contact us and it's great member service, right? But that great member service can also lend to giving bad actors information. So, basically if Lori Gall, Chief Risk Officer in the C-suite, and then, Oh, I put an out of office email on because I'm on vacation. Yeah, I think that's great customer service, but I'm also giving a bad actor the ability to know that I might not be checking email for 5 days or however long it is. Um, if I post personally something out of what my first car was and I loved my car, or what my children's names are, um, those are things, those are keys that, they're not just looking in at one thing, they're building pieces from all over the place. It's one big puzzle.
Wow. Yeah, it really makes you stop and think about, what you're posting and all of, oh,
It
just
does. Yeah,
crazy.
it does. It does.
All right. Well,
Mhm.
tell me, how has the corporate responded to further enhance security?
So we continually do upgrades to our systems, and as cyber attacks can continue, we're going to constantly monitor what we need to do to continue enhancing our level of security. And over the last few months, we've begun moving credit unions to physical or electronic tokens.
Mhm.
We feel that this upgrade is necessary to protect credit unions and their members. So, and credit unions have done a great job where they're moving right along. They understand the issues. I think from all the education that we send out, thank you to you and your team for doing that. Great job. And also NCUA's guidance. The guidance came out in October, but the regulators are going to be honing in and looking at this during everyone's annual exam over the next year. So it's one of the top priorities for the examination focus. And with everything going on in the world today, we all need to be on even more heightened alert.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Have you seen any residual impact for the credit unions?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things at our upcoming risk conference that's going to be discussed is insurance. Your cyber insurance. Basically, you have an issue. We have an issue where it's like any other industry that's becoming increasingly, competitive to obtain insurance. And what I mean by that is that the more compromises that happen, it's going to be harder if you don't have the right controls in place in order to show or to demonstrate that you're able to, to have the insurance to basically be a client. And some carriers are dropping credit unions. So um, we've seen an increase in premium cost for credit unions. And they're just seeing extreme tightening in the market. The cyber carriers are, and there's not much that we can do. I remember, well, I have some credit unions. Well, let me start off with what I remember, because it's been, I haven't had all my coffee yet this morning. I've only had one cup, but the cyber insurance paperwork used to be like a page or two, and that has gone up to, in some instances, like a guide or a manual that you're filling out, going through every type of control, every type of mitigation, everything that you have at your institution to demonstrate to the cyber carrier that you can obtain the insurance. Um, and some insurance carriers are just getting out of the market. They don't want to insure financial institutions anymore that do wire transfer ACH services. Well, I don't know a financial institution that doesn't do wire transfer ACH services. So they want to look at the security practices and make sure you're worthy of the insurance, basically. So I only see that continuing or to increase, the level of scrutiny. And I think that our broker has indicated the same. And again, at our upcoming risk conference, I know that there's going to be one whole presentation dedicated to talking about the cyber insurance and what you need to do so that you can continue to get it. As an industry, I don't know what we're going to do if we don't. That's what scares me, and that's what we have to be prepared for.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate you taking the time. Any final comments or thoughts for our listeners?
Well, I just want to tell you that it hasn't stopped. The cybersecurity team, we still see phishing campaigns going out and farming campaigns targeted at credit unions. And can I say it's from that incident? No. It could be a new one. You just don't know. But it's something that we're living with day to day to day. It's part of our lives. We have to integrate it like we do anything else. Cybersecurity isn't something that they say, oh, the regulator made me do this, or I have, put it on a shelf, pull it out. It has to be integrated into credit unions' daily lives. They need to train their staff, put systems in place, make sure that you're always checking to make sure that accounts are disabled. I mean, it's a real thing, and it's part of our everyday lives. You secure your vault with cash, right? But you got a whole lot more money moving out electronically, I'd assume. So, yeah.
Good point. All right. Well, thank you. And I also want to thank Viso Financial's Risk Management Conference for sponsoring the episode of Financial Minds Meet the Experts. As Lori stated, we do have our Risk Management Conference on a yearly basis. This year it will be April 6th through the 8th at the Hotel Hershey in Hershey, PA. After 2 years, this conference will return to an in-person event. Both Lori and I are excited, and we hope to see all of you there. And as she said, our opening speaker is about cyber security insurance. So we've got a great lineup of speakers. So for more details about the event, as well as the education sessions, please visit www.vfccu.org. As always, thanks for listening and have a great day.